Hey, what's up guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here. Happy Saturday to you and welcome back to my weekly Q&A session where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. As you can see, we have a little bit of a different format this week. We are not doing it live like we've done the past 3 weeks. For those weeks, we experienced technical difficulties ranging from having a square in the camera all the way to not being able to see the chat and then finally lag in between. There's a lot of unpredictable variables that go on there, so I'm going to continue doing it with this format. The format of the Q&A will be relatively the same, where first I'll start out by giving you guys or answering your questions, and then I'll go off on a brief little monologue. The only thing that will change is I can't do a live Q&A afterwards, but the silver lining there is because people really did seem to enjoy the live Q&A feeds. What I will start doing is combining my Sunday show with that concept. Now that I know how to play video games and stream it live while talking to you, I'll have a separate show on Sunday where I can just banter back and forth with you. I'm really looking forward to that too. So I've learned a lot from doing these Q&As, and so we can basically have the best of both worlds. Now, for those of you who aren't sure how to submit a question, all you have to do is in the comment section of this video, submit your question to be considered for next week's Q&A. You can also tweet me on my Twitter account at MythicTyrant. I also take questions from there too. That's actually probably the fastest way to reach me because it doesn't get overlooked quite as easily. I do read all the comments, but it stands out a little bit more on Twitter. I don't hold one with a higher priority over the other, but I'm just letting you know now. Twitter is definitely a great way to reach me, and the comment section is too if you don't have a Twitter account, so just keep that in mind. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Our first question of the week comes from Tim Chi. How you doing, Tim? And Tim asks, when are you planning on getting an Xbox One X? Well, the short answer to that is I'm not planning on getting one anytime soon. Right now, my Xbox One works fine. I do not have a 4K television. The only reason I'd consider getting one is because it offers more hard drive space than I currently have. I have a Generation 1 Xbox One, haha. So I only have 500 gigs and it gets filled up pretty quickly. So that'd be one reason I'd consider possibly getting one in 2018. What I will be doing is, as many of you know, I've set up a Patreon site to help fund this channel so that we can keep going throughout 2018. And if I reach my goal, I'm going to be having a contest for those who are patrons, I almost said Patreons, who have included themselves in that program. Basically, these are premium members of the site paying as little as $1 a month. $1, seriously, that's like pocket change. And I'll be having a contest. My goal is if I can reach the actual site goal, is to have a giveaway for an Xbox One X towards the end of the year. That's when I'll start wrapping things up, and that's how it's going to go. So if you guys want an Xbox One X, you don't already have the funds to get one, but you do have funds to donate $1 a month, definitely hit me up on the Patreon site. A link to the description, or a link to that site can be found in the description below. But that's a great question, Tim, and thank you. Our next question comes from CallSign Umbra. And CallSign asks, do you feel there is any real way for 343 to give the community what we want without it feeling like fan service? The short answer is no, because that's essentially what a company does. That's what a business does, is it tries to appease its customers. But they also have a vision too, and I want them to stick with that. Bungie had a great way of balancing the two out. They already had a set vision. They weren't really swayed too much by fans, but they did listen to fans, and it takes a lot of work to weed out all the crap comments, all the spam, and actually look deep to find the constructive criticism that can be very difficult to find. I mean, I know that just by running the business that I do here. I think that 343 knows what they're doing. They are trying very hard to interact more with their community. They're trying to get them more involved with their community. So I think that they're on the right path. I think as long as they don't overdo it, they should be okay. I think they should keep the vision that they have, but look at community feedback and honest and good, might I add, criticism, constructive criticisms. That's a great call. That's a great question, CallSign Umbra. I wanted to say umbrella. That's a great question. Thank you. Our next question comes from Ethan. And Ethan asks, who would win in a one-on-one, Tartarus versus Atriox, with or without gravity hammers? Honestly, okay, so I'm not going to lie. With gravity hammers, the Fist of Rut, which is wielded by Tartarus, is a pretty reckoning tool. I don't think that even Atriox, someone as powerful as him, could beat it. That's what she said. But I don't think that Atriox would be able to get around that, even with his weapon. I'm not really sure what it is. It's not a gravity hammer, really. But I think Tartarus might have a slight edge there. If it was without gravity hammers, hands down Atriox. He's a lot smarter and more brutal than Tartarus is. So that's a great question, Ethan. Thank you. Our next question comes from H2 Halo. And H2 Halo asks, since Halo 3 is backwards compatible along with Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary and Halo 3 ODST, and we are soon getting a Halo 3 playlist on Halo 5, which, you know, side note there, we already have, does that mean we might get a classic style of Halo in future titles? I really don't see us rolling back. I think the best thing you can hope for, if you mean by classic like Halo 1, 2, and 3, which I'm assuming is what you mean here, I think that we might have playlists that go that route. I mean, we already saw it with Halo Reach. You know, 343 is very in tune with that community, and we're seeing it now with Halo 5. So I think for the next major Halo title, we will obviously, or I strongly believe at some point we will see some sort of a classic playlist of sorts. I'm not really sure what that would entail. But yeah, I mean, I think they're going to keep that tradition going. I think having an entire game centered around it, though, is going backwards rather than forwards. But that's a good question, though, H2 Halo, and I appreciate you asking it. Our next question comes from Patrick Thomas. Always good to hear from you, Patrick. And Patrick asks, hey, Tyrant, I've been away for a while, but I'm back. Oh, welcome back, Patrick. Q&A, you mentioned that you want your channel to move to other things. Can I suggest maybe a playthrough on the Mass Effect trilogy? Try and ease your fan base on other sci-fi franchises, plus Mass Effect is a fun trilogy that I think you would like it, and I think you would like it, and the gameplay isn't too challenging. Cheers, Tyrant. Well, I don't know what to thank you for the suggestion or to punch you in the mouth. No, I'm just kidding, bro. To answer your question, I've played Mass Effect before, at least the first one. It really didn't stick with me that much, so I stopped playing it halfway through and sold it back to GameStop. I didn't even bother buying Mass Effect 2 or 3 or Andromeda. To really hit home, I like the suggestion that you're making, the angle towards it. I've actually dabbled in other sci-fi franchises on this site, including Star Wars Battlefront, as well as both Titanfall games. And I haven't really seen much of a response on anything except for the Star Wars thing. The only other game I'm really planning on buying this year is Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'm really looking forward to that one, really looking forward to trying out the campaign. But right now, my main focus is to stick to what I know. If I can save the site in 2018, if my community helps me come together and we can save this site through my Patreon, which again, the link is in the description below, then I'll start looking into it. He's absolutely right. This is a direction I wanted to head until I knew what kind of crisis I was facing on this site. If I can repair that, I think he's got a valid point here. It's something that I can certainly try, maybe revisit. It's been about 10 years since I played Mass Effect, so maybe I can renew my interest in it. So that's a good question. If I can save the site, it's definitely something I will consider, Patrick, and thank you. I appreciate it. Our next question comes from Captain Sarowick, and Captain asks, what game would you rather have? Halo 2 the way Bungie wanted it, or the Halo 5 that was marketed? Hope your allergies clear up. Well, they're getting there, Captain Sarowick. I appreciate it. So, obviously, a lot of you know that Halo 2 is really not my favorite Halo game, but I was really excited for it based on the marketing that had been conducted beforehand. So, if it had ended up the way that I thought it was going to be, I would say Halo 2 hands down. With Halo 5's marketing, I really don't feel like it was that off, or I don't really think it was that misleading, to be honest with you. I mean, it was, you know, pitting Sergeant Locke, Spartan Locke against the Master Chief, and it does happen that way, but it just didn't, it wasn't elaborated on as much as we thought it was going to be. Personally, I thought Halo 2's marketing was far more misleading than anything Halo 5 had to dish out. And at least on the bright side, Bungie sort of made up for it with Halo 3 ODST. So I'm satisfied with the way things are now. But to answer your question, yes, if they had made Halo 2 more in line with my personal vision of it, I would pick Halo 2 hands down. No offense, 343. So that's a great question, Captain Sarowick. Thank you. Our next question comes from Jeremy Spalding. Always good to see you, Jeremy. And Jeremy asks, Q&A, you say you don't like the space opera stuff. I think he meant to say opera, but it's space opera stuff. So how'd you like Halo 4 when the aliens didn't speak our language anymore? I honestly thought it was weird because they immediately changed it in Halo 5, and because it was the first time we couldn't understand the Covenant since Halo CE. They pulled a Bungie and it was weird, LOL. Always good to hear from you, Jeremy. So, My personal feeling is Halo 4 actually has one of the better stories in the Halo franchise, in my opinion. It ranks third for me. In terms of the aliens not speaking English, personally, I thought that's the way it should have always been, but they addressed it in Halo 4 better than anything we've seen. Because if you play the Halo 4 Spartan Ops, I was going to say Spartan Assault, Spartan Ops, they address that Covenant know English, but typically prefer to speak their native tongue. And that I approve of. What I would like to see, a perfect game for me in that regard, is if most of the alien species spoke their native tongues, while grunts continued to speak English, because that was always sort of a comedic point for me in Halo Combat Evolved. Now, to go a step further than that, Halo 5 even addressed it further. You even hear humans speaking Sangheili, because it's distinguished as being a separate language, and it's something that everyone seems to know, or at least is familiar with. So I'm glad they at least did that for Halo 4 and Halo 5, where they address the fact that the Covenant don't always speak English, and sometimes they do, rather than the hard reset we had in Halo 2, where all of a sudden they're speaking complete and clear English, as opposed to Combat Evolved, where they didn't speak any except for the grunts, which I always assumed were just parroting the humans. So that's a great question, Jeremy, and I hope that answers your question. And just to sort of add to that a little bit more, I didn't mind the Didact speaking English in Halo 4 because, you know, foreigners always sort of been portrayed as these godlike aliens, so I would expect something as powerful as a Forerunner, especially since he had like force powers and stuff like that, which weren't really force powers, or like armor extensions or whatever. But anyway, I could expect something like that to be able to speak English, but I would say the Covenant should continue speaking their native tongue, or at least a little bit of back and forth. So again, great question, Jeremy, and thank you. Our next question comes from Shadow King. And Shadow King asks, how would you feel if Halo, Haggar, Chronicles, Online, and Titan released and came out as part of the Halo series? So the only one I'm really familiar with there is Online, and I've been sort of back and forth on this. For those of you who aren't familiar with Halo Online, it was a game that they got to about the alpha phase for it. It was supposed to be like Halo 3 PC, but if it was only multiplayer. And so copies of it have gotten out on the internet. People can download it for free. And it basically, you can play on private servers, and that's about it. And I'm sure 343 is trying to stop that if they can. So as far as the other stuff, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, I guess, if they're releasing more Halo games, as long as they do it after Halo 6, because I want their full concentration right now to be on the next major Halo title. I don't mind updates for Halo Wars 2 or Halo 5, but definitely I don't want them seeing them come out with all new games if it's going to interfere with their next one. So I hope that answers your question, Shadow King, and that was a good one. Thank you. Our next question comes from Pilot BT7274. And Pilot asks, do you think Halo 3 ODST is underrated? Absolutely it is. It's an expansion to Halo 3, and I consider it to be a part of Halo 3, but people always said it was too short, didn't have enough to it, didn't have a separate multiplayer, which in my opinion was a smart idea with Reach right around the corner and people still playing Halo 3. But, you know, one of the reasons why I love Halo 3 ODST so much is because in the Bungie saga, you know, from Halo's Combat Evolved all the way to Halo Reach, Halo 3 ODST had my second favorite story. And it did so in also having excellent gameplay. It basically had a great story like Halo Combat Evolved, but great gameplay like Halo 3. And so it just melded very well for me. It also gave me what I thought Halo 2 was going to be, at least in a sense. So I love Halo 3 ODST. It's a game I still enjoy today. And what do you think about it? Pilot, just let me know in the comments below, my friend. And our final question of the week, our star question, comes from Carlton Malone. And Carlton asks, what do you think on Reach 2? This has been interesting. I've heard a lot of back and forth, people saying there's going to be a Reach 2, and I'm sitting here going, Reach was destroyed. I know the lore. Even if you didn't read The Fall of Reach, and you just thought, you know, maybe at the end of Reach there was or Halo Reach, there was more of a fight between humans and aliens. I'll put it to you this way. There's not going to be a sequel chronologically to Reach. It just isn't going to happen. Reach was destroyed in that event. Now, what I can see, if you really want to go down this rabbit hole, is a possible game that follows the events that the Master Chief had to face during the fall of Reach. Because there's a lot there that I could see translating into gameplay just fine. You know, get to see a little bit of the Master Chief's journey, things leading up to Reach, seeing a different perspective of the war. That I can possibly get my hands around. That I can possibly see, or I should say wrap my mind around. But anything else, Like we already heard from 343 firsthand that Noble 6 is no more. You will not be seeing Noble 6 anymore unless it's some sort of a prequel. If you're going to call it Reach 2, it might as well be, at the very least, from the perspective of a different group of Spartans, or at least the Master Chief. But even then, you wouldn't want to call it Reach 2. Maybe just call it exactly what it is, Halo: The Fall of Reach, and just a different perspective of the same event. That's my personal take on it. I can't see it being done any other way. I'm not really sure why people are so hungry for a Reach 2. That just doesn't seem to sit well. Reach in and of itself was sort of a controversial game between Halo fans. People I know nowadays look back on it fondly, but back then people were mixed up with the armor abilities. We didn't like the fact that we were playing different Spartans other than the Master Chief. You know, it felt a little different than what we were used to. As I've said in other videos, I feel like this is more of a prelude to Destiny than a sequel or prequel to Halo. And, you know, maybe they can get it right with the second go-around, but if there was going to be a Reach 2, I would say relate it to the Fall of Reach as much as possible and make it as canon as it can be, so that we don't have all this conflicting information. So that's my personal take on it, Carlton. And what do you guys think about the concept of a second Halo Reach game, or a Reach type game? Definitely let me know in the comments below, because I'm curious about that, and I want to know your thoughts on it as well. Okay, so that wraps up this week's Q&A. We're going to go ahead and move along to the monologue portion of the site. For the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about Adpocalypse and my Patreon site, and what it basically means. And this is something that blanketly affects YouTubers across the board. Just to give you sort of a brief recap, we experienced something earlier this year called Adpocalypse due to some hateful videos that were put up by multiple YouTubers and some hateful language that was said by top YouTubers like PewDiePie. And it's affected everybody. Major companies across the board like McDonald's, Starbucks, Verizon, tons of others, all pulled ads from YouTube, and YouTubers across the board, including myself, saw as much as a 75% decrease in our monthly income. That's like making $100,000 a year, and the next year making only $25,000 a year. That is a significant blow to anybody, and something I would never wish on anybody. And as a result, YouTube has responded to this, trying to, you know, redo some algorithms and change some policies around, which has not only reduced view counts on top of all that, but has made it even harder to monetize content, even if it's content that's perfectly fine for the site. Even some of my streams that don't even have dialogue in it have to be submitted for review just because of these new rules, and it's hurting everybody, including some of your other favorite YouTubers like Hidden Xperia, Late Night Gaming. And so if you're like me and YouTube has become a full-time job for you, it's also become a battleground. And so as a last defense here, I've set up Patreon so that people on this site can become premium members, get rewards for doing that. You know, things like access to our community Discord, getting shout-outs from me in videos, being invited to community game nights, being a guest on one of my videos, and even access to contests where you can win things like possibly an Xbox One X, maybe a game that you like. You know, lots of different rewards out there. And it's interesting because I've had the site up for nearly 2 weeks now, and I've only had 6 people, 6 very generous people, might I add, contribute to the site. And so now I'm starting to get worried that I'm not going to actually be able to reach my goal, and next year I'm going to have to disband the channel. And people have asked me about that and what that means and what the time frame is. And so I figured I would take this time to sort of break it down for you. And first of all, people ask, why are you disbanding it to begin with? And the answer is, I'm a married man now. The chips are very different from when I first started this site. I can't do that, have a full-time job, and also be ahead of a huge community like this one. It's just not possible. I've tried doing it, more specifically in late 2014 through the first half of 2015, and I just couldn't do it. My marriage and being able to provide for my family obviously comes first. So that's why. Now, what would happen? People ask when the time frame is. First of all, the way I'm sort of determining this, I haven't set a date in stone. I haven't set a week or a month or anything like that. What I am going to do is after the holidays, after the January drop, and I'll explain that in a second, in February, I'm going to analyze where I'm at. Now, why am I doing it then? Because traditionally speaking, during the holidays, YouTubers across the board receive higher rates of CPM. Their CPM goes up primarily because companies are trying to push their products a lot harder, so they're willing to pay more for ads. Once the holidays are over and all that extra revenue goes away, we experience what's called the January drop. January and September are traditionally our worst months of the year in terms of revenue. So that's my baseline right there. I'll have a better impression of what my site's actually bringing in without any sort of boost in January, or at least more specifically February. I can look back on January and say, okay, this is the worst my site is going to do this year. And once that happens, once February rolls around, I'm going to look at that, and if between AdSense and Patreon I'm not making the income I need to provide for myself and my family, then I'm going to have to start looking into something else. Now, while I'm looking for a full-time position somewhere, yes, the channel will still go on. The show will still go on. Once I am able to find one, I don't know if it's going to take weeks or months or whatever, but once I'm able to obtain a full-time position, I will put out a final video letting you know that that will be the last video that you see coming from that site. And it's very similar to what Naked Eli did almost 2 years ago. You saw one last video from him telling you that he wasn't going to do anymore, and then you never heard from him again. And we miss Naked Eli. You know, he's like a brother to me, and it was very disappointing to see him leave, but his leaving was justified. I understood it by the context of his video, and I've talked to him a few times since then, and I'm just glad to know that he's doing well. So the first thing that's going to happen is my Facebook page. So for those of you who don't know, I sort of have a triad here for MythicTyrant. I have a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and of course the main page right here, and I also have a Discord for premium members. So just for regular folks, I've got 3 main sites that I contend. Now the Facebook one is going to go, plain and simple. I'm not going to lie, I haven't been a fan of that one to begin with. It's had a hard time catching on. I don't even really utilize it that much as anything other than a mirror for Twitter. Essentially, for the folks out there who do not have a Twitter account or don't want to sign up for one but have Facebook, it's their way of getting news across. Like when I'm going to stream something next, or when I posted a new video. I don't even answer messages on Facebook because I've already have Twitter and my channel here to worry about the comment section. So I don't even bother answering questions over private messages on my Facebook page. So that will go completely. As far as my Twitter account goes, I'm not really sure yet because I have a lot of friends on Twitter and I still want to be able to keep up with them. I don't have to talk MythicTyrant. I can always talk about other games or what they're up to in general and just, you know, keeping up with their lives. That's important to me. If I do keep the Twitter account, I will not be answering any questions related to any of my videos, period. MythicTyrant does not exist or will not exist on Twitter if it comes to that. Basically, I'll just be a regular guy at that point. That's all it'll be. So that's where my Twitter account's going to come in. So what about the main channel? This one, the one that you're watching right now. People have asked me if I'm going to delete it, and the answer is no. I think that would be petty and stupid and pointless. What would happen is after I post that final video, letting you know that I'm essentially retiring from YouTube, if it ends up coming to that, I just won't post any more content. I mean, there's over 700 videos on this channel. I just posted my 700th video this week. And and this is a monument to nearly a decade's worth of work. You know, even before I started the channel, I was doing the Mythic walkthrough guides on halo.bungie.org. I've transferred some of them to this site. And I don't want that to go away. That's my art. And so obviously I would continue to keep that up. I'm not overly thrilled that Google would still be making money off of a channel I'm no longer using, but at least I would still be making money too, at least for a little while. And everyone would still get to enjoy all my past work. And so I'm not deleting the channel. I have no plans to delete it anyway, but there just wouldn't be any additional content. And I really hope that it doesn't come to that because people have asked me, well, couldn't you just work a little extra harder? And I have to ask myself what I really want to. You know, this is sort of, you know, I've been providing free content for folks for nearly 10 years now. You know, 7 on YouTube. As a matter of fact, this upcoming month will be this channel's 7th anniversary. And next May will be my 10th anniversary for creating guides for Halo. And I don't feel like I've really asked a lot for you guys. I've tried to be a great community leader, you know, try to look out for you, try to keep it clean, and try to keep it something that where people could come to have fun and just enjoy themselves, enjoy the content, enjoy talking to your friends, enjoy talking to me as much as I enjoy talking to you. And I feel like this is kind of something where if I'm unable to get the support I want, I'm sort of getting my eyes open to what's really going on out there. Maybe people just don't care as much. And I hope that's not the case. I know some people have said that they can't. I don't expect kids to donate to this site. In fact, I discourage it. But I looked at my demographics, and less than 10% of my viewers are under the age of 18, meaning that over 90% of the people who visit the site are adults. Now, I realize I looked at the demographics, and about a third of that 90% are people who are likely in college, 18 to 24. But even then, 60% of that, or I should say of that 90%, 2/3 are over the age of 25 and probably have full-time jobs and can likely contribute if they can. Like I said, I know some people live paycheck to paycheck. I'm not judging anybody here, but I'm kind of thinking that the other school of thought here is that everyone thinks that someone else is going to do the donation so they don't have to. And again, literally as little as $1 a month can change all of this. And so the way I sort of look at it is, it's one of those scenarios where when people believe that everyone else is going to do it, they don't have to, everyone starts having that frame of mind. One person can make a difference, because when everyone thinks that they don't need to help, then no one does and nothing ever happens. You know, it's funny, elections work the same way. You know, people think that their guy is going to win, and so they don't go the extra mile to actually cast their vote. And now, I know people don't like it when I talk about politics, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes politically here, so I'm not going to use a real life situation, but one of my favorite cartoons, at least back in the 90s and early 2000s, was The Simpsons. And I'm sure most of you have seen it. A lot of you are probably fans of it. And there was an episode that sticks with me, and it's when Bart runs for class president against Martin. And Bart has got everyone on the hook, man. He is sitting there, you know, chanting at the beginning of the class. You've got Martin sitting there going, I found 0.002% of asbestos, and Bart Simpson's like, I say we need more asbestos, more asbestos, more asbestos. And you have, you know, the class cheering with him. And so after the campaign is over, and you see Martin, he's all pale. He knows he's lost. The entire class is with Bart Simpson. And so before the votes are cast and counted, everyone goes to have a pre-celebration, pre-victory party, if you will, with Bart on the playground. And as Bart's talking to everybody, you hear, he goes, so did you vote for me? Oh, well, yeah, I was going to, but I didn't have time. Then he goes up to Nelson. Hey, well, you voted for me, right? And he's like, no, voting's for losers. I don't do that. And they go, well, Bart, did you vote? And he goes, uh-oh. And so he runs back to the classroom just as the recess bell rings. The recount has already, or the counting has already been done. The tally is finished. And Martin wins because only 2 people in the class voted. And it was Martin and his campaign manager. And of course, they both voted for Martin. Everyone who supported Bart didn't take the time to vote, including Bart himself, and so he lost the election. Even if he had voted himself, even if he and his buddy Milhouse had voted, at least it would have been a tie. But no one did, and so he lost, even though he should have won by a landslide. And so we're kind of in that situation here, where I hope it's not one of those scenarios where you don't feel like you need to because everyone else is going to do it for you. This site has been up for over 2 weeks, and I can tell you, out of 35,000 people, only 6, again, very generous people, have donated. And we still have a long way to go if we want to save this site. So again, there are 35,000 subscribers on here, almost 35,000. It takes roughly 3 to 4% of those 35,000, this isn't even including the hundreds of thousands of other people who visit the site every month, but just a fraction of that 35,000, just a fraction of it. Literally, it's about 3 to 4%. That's it. Donating the minimum amount, $1 a month. That $1 a month gets you access to contests. It gets you access to a lot of cool stuff that people who aren't in the program, who aren't premium members, aren't going to have access to. You will be an exclusive guy. You're going to be a member of the VIP club. So I highly encourage you to please, if you can just spare $1 a month, that's all I'm asking for. You can check it out in the comment section, or not the comment section, in the description below. My Patreon site's right there. Please, I urge you to help out. And I'm not even asking it for be a long-term thing. If YouTube somehow manages to pull their heads out of their asses and fix this mess, then, you know, if things get fixed with AdSense and, you know, a year from now you decide it's $1 a month's too much for you, I'll put out a video letting you know that the AdSense thing has been fixed. And if you don't want to be a premium member anymore, you don't have to be. You know, that I wouldn't need that extra support. But right now, I need your support more than ever. So if you can, please just, you know, go to my Patreon site. $1 a month is all it takes. There are rewards for different levels. Check those out as well. It's on the right-hand page of that site. Just look down and you'll get to see a description of every benefits level that there is and what you get in return. So thank you guys so much. I know that was a bit long-winded. I'm sorry that it wasn't live, but I'm going to have a live show for you tomorrow. And I hope we can keep this juggernaut going, because I got to let you know, I've already done 700 videos for this site, and I would really like to reach 1,000 in 2018. I want you to be there with me. Let's keep this juggernaut, this machine going. I want to keep you entertained. I want to keep you happy, and I want to keep this community live and thriving. You guys are like an extended family to me. And I love every one of you, so thank you for being here. I'm glad you enjoy the content, and I hope we can keep going strong. So dialing it back a little bit, because we went off on a tangent there, let's talk about Halo Reach 2 for a second. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Would you like to see another Reach-themed game? And if so, how would you like to see it played out? You can let me know in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below. And if you like this video and you want to see more and you want to stay up to date on all your Halo news, tips, tricks, and secrets, be sure to click that subscribe button for more great content every single day right here on MythicTyrant.com. Thanks so much for your time today, guys and gals. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the content. I will catch you all right back here next time. Have an excellent Saturday. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.